today we can report actually that 8 confirmed heatwave-related fatalities across Europe, including 2 men trapped in a Catalan wildfire, which was linked, obviously, to the heat wave. Their authorities have boosted aid for vulnerable communities, and these 2 men were 2 farmers who tragically died in a rapidly spreading wildfire in Torrefeta e Florejacs, Catalonia. The blaze consumed around 6,500 hectares of farmland, generating a towering convection cloud that complicated firefighting efforts.
Wow.
Yeah, that's sad. It's a shame. Again, you would think by now, because you mentioned it as well, that it is a common occurrence, especially in a lot of the southern countries of Europe, in Portugal, in Spain, in Greece. Again, I don't understand why the government doesn't put in place more effort, more things
like
to
the army in and stuff. And my own personal thought that something that's like with fires, but a lot of the time they're done by arsonists, like people do it on purpose, like light these fires to clear land. And whether the council is in on it is a bit of a conspiracy theory, but it's,
I mean, we just covered corruption, so it wouldn't be a surprise, right?
What they should do is that when land is like burnt or mountains or whatever, they shouldn't let people build houses on right after. It's like,
exactly,
just don't let them. Whose land is it to begin with? Where did they buy it from?
Yeah. Regional authorities evacuated 14,000 residents and urged them to stay indoors during this crisis. However, moving on from that, as tragic as that was, at least 8 people have been confirmed from dying from heat-related deaths across Europe. These include 4 in Spain, which 2, of course, were from the Catalonia wildfires, 2 in France, 2 in Italy, and the heat wave across Europe has hit a record, basically, according to many. In France, there were reported at least 300 plus hospitalizations, and of course the widespread school closures and infrastructure strain. Switzerland shut down a nuclear reactor due to the overheated river water used for cooling. that's crazy. Switzerland, you think, because it's alpine, but wow, there you go. Yes, this was the Besnau nuclear power plant located on the river Aare, and it shut down 1 reactor and reduced the second to 50% capacity. The river temperatures had reached around 25 degrees Celsius, risking harm to aquatic life if the water was released at even higher temperatures. In southern France, the EDF, or Électricité de France, public utility owned by the government, shut down the Golfec plant due to calm river temperatures and limited water availability, which could have reached 28 degrees Celsius, exceeding safety thresholds for ecosystem protection. Italy placed 18 cities under red alerts. 2 elderly men died from heat exposure in Sardinia. We have, I think there's a video. Yeah, we can have a show. It was this is the Spanish wildfire. Yeah, we can play it in the background. So this is the Spanish wildfire. It's pretty devastating and crazy. That's crazy, and the ash as well. It's terrible because that lingers on. It lingers on in the atmosphere for a while.
Smoke everywhere.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
It's quite a shame, and like people have like houses and cattle, and what if people have like disabled people? How do they get them out of there? And kids and elderly and anyone. What about people who don't have cars? This is the countryside. What are they going to do? Like walk away?
I think mostly in the countryside, especially in the Mediterranean, it affects greatly more the elderly because they tend to live more in the rural areas, as well as obviously the farmers. But it also affects obviously the wildlife, which has to be taken into account. Also, the fact of the ash cloud. Most people don't maybe acknowledge this, but when you have those ash clouds, it's going to actually mess up a lot of the avian species, the birds. Sorry, it's messing up a lot with birds because they're gonna get affected by that greatly. So the cleanup for this, God knows what it'll be, but obviously the taxpayer will have to front it as usual because the government was incompetent enough to not to predict or consider this ahead of time, as it happens every year, usually anyway. I'm talking in particular about like the southern states. So obviously, we also had a situation in Greece and Crete and in Crete and the mainland. So over 5,000 people evacuated from Ierapetra and other areas on Crete, and tourists sought safety. There's also a video of that by sea and in shelters following wildfires driven by scorching temperatures and fierce winds. So this wasn't only happening in Catalonia; it was also happening
as well.
Yeah, and
I've seen some Canadair airplanes above my house yesterday. Actually,
there you go. Look at that. Again, why isn't the government doing more to prevent? There's never preventative measures.
It's almost like a yearly phenomenon.
Exactly. I mean, in some cases, like you said, rightfully so, it could be staged. And in those cases, obviously, then I can't blame the government for that. However, the government should have things in place by now. You'd think we're in 2025. We're not living in the 1990s anymore, where this isn't unheard of. So I don't understand. For natural disasters, especially in areas where they are accustomed to expect such natural disasters like earthquakes in Los Angeles. I'll give you an example, just so you understand that I'm not just talking out of my ass, but Japan, they get earthquakes. And what do? They've built earthquake-proof buildings. They've built earthquake-proof roads. And even so, it sometimes messes up. But they're one of the countries who actually has more preventative measures than a country who's supposed to be on the top tier of economy, the United States of America, LA, which is always declared, and they still can't get their shit together.
Exactly.
So, and on top of that, the LA fires, again, same situation. But here in the southern states of the EU and the EU itself, they can't figure out something to protect the wildlife. They're all about the environment. They're all about green and all this other crap. But forget about the farmers. Forget about the wildlife. Forget about everybody else who's at the bottom rung of the ladder. So I'm sorry, but it's just like, this isn't good enough. They should have put more preventative measures. And instead, we're getting Greta Thunberg and Ursula von der Leyen, who are going to be babbling about stuff to do about climate change constantly and telling us, blah, 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 like, oh, we need to be mindful of our carbon emissions. Well, newsflash, bitch. Ash in the cloud ain't good for nobody. Anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Here there's like a Wikipedia page about Greece's fires last year. And where Athens is the capital, it's in a region called Attica. And last year, there was like a 30-kilometer long forest fire. 30 kilometers. Okay.
There you go.
And this is like close to Athens. 30 kilometers. And
that's the capital, basically. That's where the administration is.
It burned 100 houses to the ground. Like nothing was left.
Was this natural or was it staged?
No, it was probably. Well, I assume it was done by people because it was done like in different areas or at the same time when it was windy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking about 30 kilometers now, and
that's crazy.
Yeah, if you see the mountains, they'll like black.
Exactly. This is horrible. It's just and just not enough is done. I wanted to also just mention that also in Turkey, in the Izmir province, wildfires across regions like Odemish. I will probably brutalize these names, but let's watch the video instead to show it.
Makers are bussed away from the site.
But I have a feeling they're going to talk about
firefighters battling the blaze that has already burned through forests and olive groves as gale force winds continue to stoke the flames. About 230 firefighters have been deployed along with dozens of fire engines and helicopters to contain the wildfire that broke out near the town of Ierapetra. Meanwhile, further southeast, in Turkey, the fires that have been burning for the past 2 days in Izmir province continue to spread, cutting off highways as they reached homes. Already some 50,000 people have been temporarily displaced. This would seem to be the new normal as summers in the Mediterranean become hotter drier, the land
Well, it
more
shouldn't be the new
susceptible
normal,
to such
because
infernos.
what are the
Winds
governments doing about
Catalonia
it?
region are becoming more
they're showing
frequent sector in
Spain.
the Mediterranean, which provides a significant portion of revenue for countries in the region. A physical and economic risk.
I actually
Yeah, it's
can't.
terrible.
I can't remember a time I've never traveled to either Spain, Portugal, where there wasn't a fire. I just wanted to mention still that there was the deaths of a forestry worker. This was in Turkey, and an elderly man due to smoke inhalation, and around 50,000 residents evacuated, with approximately 200 homes destroyed. Just as you mentioned in Greece, how there were like 400, 200.
Yeah.
This is it's
And
tragic.
we're talking about like completely destroyed, because all the
That's
other
crazy.
ones, they have like some sort of damage.
Yeah.
And it melts everything. Like, I know we usually don't have houses that are made out of wood like in the States, like in LA, but
Yeah, that's true.
it does destroy everything, like gardens and
So,
roofs.
analysts want to emphasize that all of this heat wave and everything is due to climate change, and then obviously they're just putting all the focus onto that, and then obviously that's also due to carbon emissions. However, and this is usually also argued because through persistent drought, low humidity, high winds, this significantly worsens the conditions of the fires. However, again, I'm not hearing anything about preventative measures. I'm not hearing anything about
What's
dealing
going to be
with
done about these things?
Right. It's just like, oh, you know what? Let's just like make electrical vehicles. Great.
Yeah, like they've just accepted, it's a yearly thing. Like, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
Like,
and
in my area, there's like a fire alert. And to be honest, last year, they were sending warnings on your phone, like what days are more likely for there to be fires. And that's probably like due to wind, but it also gives a heads up to the people starting these fires when it's best to start them.
Right.
And I know that there are probably some groups like with motocross, like motorbikes in the forest and stuff, with like jerry cans and just light stuff.
I mean, they get away.
That.
They know they'll get away with it because, again, there's nothing being put in place for this. And what's even more shocking is that you'll have a country that is actually very much more environmentalist, like Switzerland, and even them, look at them, they have to shut down a reactor. Like, what would have happened if that blew? Like, this isn't just the case of trying to like blame it on climate change. This is also the case of having to look at the reality that things are cyclic, and guess what? Things are going to change, and we have to adjust, and we have to adapt. We have to put things in place. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.